Talktainment Radio, Worldwide South. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning. Good morning to you and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio station from coast to coast and around the world. We are heard on TalkTainmentRadio.com. This is the Compensatory Concept with Neely Fuller, Jr. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we are so happy to have this opportunity to speak with you, our listening audience. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you can do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. And if it is appropriate, and if I can understand it and read it properly, then I will read it, and then we can go from there. Mr. Fuller is the author of a great book, and if you're going to discuss racism, white supremacy, as he said in the opening, listen to this, he said, Mr. Fuller said this: if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Now, don't go over that statement as if it's just an ordinary statement, because I found it to be just really profound. If you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is, and how it works, listen, everything else, that's what he has, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. I lead into that because you need to get a copy of his book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy. This will help you understand what white supremacy is, what racism is, and how it works. Because if you don't, and I'm of the opinion that many don't really understand, you walk around in a state of confusion. As a matter of fact, some of the questions that come in leads me directly to think that that might be the case. So get the book, and it will help you out. And then there is another publication that he has, which is called a word guide. And Mr. Fuller, first of all, how are you?
I'm still learning. Good.
Yes, definitely. That's another profound statement. And tell people, the listeners, how we can get the book and the name of the additional word guide.
Well, the basic textbook, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, both of the books have that basic title, but one is a guide about what to do about things, addressed to the individuals, what to say and what to do. Textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which racism being white supremacy. So you think, then you act, because that's what people do every day. I mean, in one form or another. That includes people who don't have the ability to speak. They use sign languages or something, but that is a form of speech. But you always want to think before you speak and then before you act. Thought, speech, action. That's the correct sequence. Not action, speech, and then thought. That's not the correct sequence. Things should be done in sequence. I'm saying these are tapping into the laws of the universe.
Yes.
Even a cat getting ready to make a move. If you ever watch an animal usually kind of pauses for a minute or two. A wolf or a cat or a dog will kind of pause for a moment and take stock of a situation. And then kind of move slowly, in a curious form and whatnot. There's an old expression, curiosity in the cat. Curiosity killed the cat, some people say, but also curiosity allows the cat to function. So all animals, all creatures are curious, and this is what we mean by curious. We mean thinking.
Yes.
You're pondering. You're making an assessment of a situation.
Yes.
You're not just plunging ahead without thinking.
That's the thought.
Yes, right, yes. A cat will walk up to the edge of the water, and the cat will contemplate the water, think about the water before the cat makes a move. The cat just doesn't jump into the water because the cat may figure that the water may be dangerous, which water can be dangerous. Water is very nourishing, but water, under certain circumstances, can be extremely dangerous, like in a tsunami. So these are just illustrations.
Yes.
It's the same way with people. You just follow the laws of the universe.
Yes.
This is what my guidebooks are designed to have a person do. But now, right now, if you go to producejustice.com, what will come up on the screen is that the books are temporarily unavailable, but you will be able to get them in a couple of weeks. It's going to be about a couple of weeks before that happens.
Okay, very, very good. And just to add on before we go on, you spoke about the creator, the universe, and you mentioned that the TSA, the thought, speech, and action. If one thinks about it, and if one were to use the Bible, for example, if you think about it, when he approached Adam and Eve in the Garden of Evil, he thought about what they had done. He could see everything. He thought about what they had done. There was a thought there. And then, if you can recall the story, he asked a question. Speech. Who told you that you were naked? He was logically deducting what happened so he could get the truth. That's speech. And then he took action. Very simple. So you are correct, following the laws of the universe. Okay, we have questions here. Let's see here. Let me go to, I'm going to start off with Tony. He says, hello, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. I'm Tony Mack calling from Houston, Texas. I have a two-part question for Mr. Fuller. What would your thoughts be on blacks and non-whites who sell drugs because they have no job or job skills to provide, I guess he said, for the family? And, he asked, would that not be constructive because they will be able to provide for the family? Thank you, and have a constructive day. I didn't quite understand it, but maybe you can decipher what Mr. Tony Dickey was saying, Mr. Fuller.
Well, you look at the product. If I'm selling cocaine, there's just one question. All problems are solved by questions and answers. So the question is very simple. If Neely Fuller is selling cocaine to a person, will that cocaine that I sold to that person have a constructive effect? Well, if a person doesn't know and never seen cocaine before, or its effects, whatnot, well, then go ahead and do it like some people have done, and that's how you find out. Does it have a constructive result? A person who is high on cocaine, does that person do things constructively? And when a person keeps using it, does that person become a constructive person? A person is always doing something that's very helpful and improves the entire world and leaves it a better place than the way that they found it? Or is it non-constructive? Every move that people make is going to be constructive or non-constructive. So if I sell cocaine to one person and I say I'm providing for my family because I got some money now to buy food and shelter and clothing and send someone to college, maybe, okay, but let's look at that. We're not in the world alone, all right? So I've taken care of my problem probably by selling cocaine to some other black person, but let's look at the payoff somewhere around the corner, literally around the corner. Let's say that I got the money from selling the cocaine from several black people who were giving me the money so that they can get high on cocaine so that the cocaine, they have been told, will solve their problems. That's the only reason they're taking it, because they get a feeling that problems are being solved. Everybody's trying to solve problems. So cocaine is one way that people try to solve problems, okay? Buying it and selling it. So I got the money for doing so. Now I took this money and I gave it to my offspring to go to college. So my son, my daughter comes out of college and has a diploma and going out into the world to make the world a better place and make money and, you know, be able to take care of themselves doing it. Now, on the very day, I'm just giving this as an example.
Okay.
They walk around the corner, all right, diploma in hand or degree in hand, fresh out of college. The person who needs that cocaine fix comes up and blows their brains out for the $15 that they got in their pocket, plus an IOU on a student loan. That's the same person. The same person that killed them is the person I sold the cocaine to. See, so let's look at the end result of this operation. It's non-constructive. Like I've said on this program many a time, every move that you make is going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect.
Yes.
So I'll just let the listeners evaluate where that all goes. What goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. Whatever you send out is going to come back, and what comes back might be ugly.
Might be. All righty. You are listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on Talktainment Radio, and that is radio the way it should be heard. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Would that be me, sir?
That would be you.
Okay, thank you for taking my call. Historically speaking, the Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion was collectively written by the Maryland Colony Council in 1638 and states the following: neither the existing black population, their descendants, nor any other blacks shall be permitted to enjoy the fruits of white society. The doctrine was written to ensure that blacks would remain a subordinate, non-competitive, and non-compensated workforce. Now in Baltimore 2015, we have high unemployment rate. This is right on target with the goals and objectives of marginalizing doctrine of exclusion, logically speaking. So, if we have elected officials, here's my question. If we have elected officials and police officers who are black and white, and I normally call these Caucasians suspect race soldiers because Neely Fuller taught me that, what do we call the black police officers who are enforcing a doctrine not written by them? They're just trying to take care of their families, but they're doing the same thing that the Caucasian police officers are doing.
Okay.
Do we call them race soldiers or no?
Mr. Fuller?
No, they're not race soldiers. I'll make a parallel of how that works. in World War II, there was something in the death camps run by people like Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich, and others, Hitler's death camps for people that they put into the concentration camps. And within those concentration camps, they decided to have something called the Sonderkommando. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. Sonderkommando. And the Sonderkommando was made up of the people who were prisoners themselves. They just simply went around and said, okay, I'm going to put a uniform on some of you all, and your job is going to be to go around and make sure that everybody's in bed at whatever time. I'm just giving this as an example.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you don't want to do it, it means you might just starve to death around here, because if I put a uniform on you and all like that, you won't starve to death. I mean, now you can turn it down if you want to. I'm calling for volunteers. So you volunteer. And if you don't want to volunteer, I'm going to pick some of you anyway. So you might as well volunteer. And then another thing, the people who are going to put on the uniform and make sure that everybody else is here, among you prisoners, make sure that your relatives are here. You're going to count them too. When you go and make bed check at 9 o'clock, you make sure that they're in bed. Now, if anybody is missing, when you make bed check, and I'm going to check on you to make sure that you made bed check, if anybody's missing, it means you go in the oven the next day. So you can take your choice, all right? And so that's the way that worked. In other words, the black law enforcement officer is no more an agent of the white supremacists than the average black person begging for a job. No different. We are all prisoners of war. We have to understand that. If you look at the movie Shawshank Redemption, just because Andy Dufresne worked in the warden's office doesn't mean that Andy Dufresne is not a prisoner. He's still a prisoner. He's a prisoner, but he works in the warden's office.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Other prisoners work down in the machine shop. I mean, so, if he didn't want to work in the warden's office, the warden would just say, okay, I'll just get me another prisoner. You don't want to work in my office. You'd rather work outside. I mean, where it's raining on you and whatnot, and people yelling at you all day and all like that. Say, but you can work in my office where it's nice and comfortable and all like that. If you turn it down, somebody else, I'll just pick somebody else. Even if they don't want to do it, I'm going to pick somebody else anyway. And they're going to do it because I picked them. I'm in charge of the world. Duh. Wake up and smell the coffee. I run all your business. None of you are exempt. None of you people of color are not under my jurisdiction. So I can pick any one of you, any 1,000 of you, or 2 million of you to do whatever I want done. And I can make it hard on you. You'll wish you had have done it. And those that volunteered to do it, it's basically no difference, because under the system of white supremacy, all of you are volunteers. That's the way it is. Now, if I'm looking at it incorrectly, then somebody can correct me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't think that's an incorrect analysis.
Okay. Did you have another question before we move on, sir?
Just that he's right. We need to replace that doctrine of exclusion with justice and guarantee that no person is mistreated, and guarantee that people who need help the most get the most constructive help. Thanks.
Okay. You are welcome. Thank you for your call. Okay. Let's have a question from, let's see. Looks like it's from Wayne in Miami, Florida. He writes, Mr. Fuller, the creator must have created black people as a very special group of people. I say this because there is no logical reason for white supremacists to do what they do in all areas of human activity for as long as the system of white supremacy has been in place over 500 years, he quotes, unless this helps them survive as a people on the planet, in other words, acting on their fears. This sends a deeper message of how their subconscious minds work. They have always shown this weakness, but we have yet to catch on. We don't need a gun nor a whip to dominate. The Creator just made us this way. Now, I didn't understand his question, but can you answer that?
I don't understand the question either, but I'll try to address what the situation is. I think some time ago, back in the 1940s or 50s, a white man made this statement. He said, we got all this turmoil going on between black and white. He said it's because people are not looking at it correctly. And I'm paraphrasing him.
Yes, sir.
And then he made this statement. He said, God made the Negro, only he didn't say Negro. He used the so-called N-word. He said, God made to serve white people. And he made white people to serve God. Now, if everybody just shut up and let it play out that way, everything will work just fine. He said, white people were made to serve God, and you black people were made to serve white people. And why doesn't everybody just see that? It's obvious to anybody that's got any sense, and just leave it alone. And everybody will work out. Everybody will wind up happy. He says all this foolishness about, rights and this and that. And say God made white people. It's obvious to everybody that's got any sense. God made white people. Everywhere you see white people, you see things happening. You see things going on that should happen. You see things being built up. Everybody depends on the mind, the brains of white people. And black people, if they help white people to do the things that white people tell them to do without arguing about it, just do it. Don't think about it. Shut up about it. Everything will work out fine. And down through the years, I've heard some white people, some black people come close to saying just that too. All right? So years ago, I thought about it. I said, I'm going to look at it logically. I'm going to see, logically speaking, if what that white guy said back in the 1940s or 50s is logically correct. Because I always tell people, follow the logic. I said it sounds correct because it looks correct on the surface. It looks like that wherever white people are, black people are trying to follow them and find out and then get mad after they follow about the way they're being treated. Mm-hmm. All right? But then I said, okay, so I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at that cold without any emotion, just cold, the way it is, because he could be correct. But I'm going to test that. So what did I test it with? I said, wait a minute. What kind of God would have people in charge of other people where you lie all the time? That's the first giveaway that I noticed that made me start thinking that what that white man said was incorrect. Because I said, wait a minute, if it's structured this way, if it was intended to be this way, why do so many white people say things that are not true? If you are ordained, you don't have to say anything that's not true. That's where the logic doesn't fit. And just on that alone, I concluded that no, what he said was just another way of justifying mistreatment of people. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. You start up by asking questions. Yeah, very good.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Yes, good morning. Basically, when doing a basic search on the internet of the term white supremacy, I usually get pictures of Hitler and neo-Nazis. So my question for Mr. Fuller is, because he used it in the term white supremacy in a different context, is who was the first person, if possible, to use the term white supremacy, and when did Mr. Fuller discover the term white supremacy as he used it?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Who was the first person to use the term white supremacy?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't know, and it really doesn't matter because I concluded that there is such a thing and it's accurate, So I say that I'll go with that term. I went with it. I mean, in fact, I say that's the term that should be used. I don't use the term racial discrimination or racial integration or racial segregation or bigotry. I tell people, my suggestion is, they can still use them, but my suggestion is they don't describe what's really going on. Mm-hmm. I say you use the term white supremacy and you use the term racism, and make sure that racism and white supremacy are one and the same. There's no other form of racism other than white supremacy. And that will take you right where you need to go if you want to reveal truth in a hurry. Other ways, you add to the confusion. Mm-hmm. I've tried to use the term racial discrimination, racial integration. Racial integration, how can you don't integrate racism, you eliminate racism. Mm-hmm. So what are we talking about? I mean, and if you just want to have a long discussion using a whole lot of different words, you can go that route. But I say that all words are supposed to be tools that get a job done. If the job isn't done, then the words aren't working.
Yes, okay. Did you have another question, caller, before we move on?
Yes, I did.
Okay, act quickly, please, sir.
Okay, because my follow-up question, well, actually, a different question is, I wanted to ask, what does Mr. Fuller think about the terms white privilege and white guilt? Those seem to be common terms that are used.
Wait a minute, white privilege and what?
White guilt.
White guilt. Okay, white privilege and white guilt. What does Mr. Fuller think of that? Okay, thank you, caller. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller. You care to address that?
I don't use the term white privilege. I hear people use it. You can use the term. Other people use it, and depending on how you want to define it, because no word means anything except when you define it. Then the word takes on meaning. You have to give it a definition. Because
you can challenge it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I say I prefer the term white supremacy because I say that's real. They do have supreme power over the non-white people of the planet. Now, privilege means you have kind of asked for something and got it.
Somebody granted it to you.
Yes, right. That's how it sounds to me.
That's logically speaking.
Yeah, that sounds like someone made some kind of deal. I mean, they sat down and had a handshake and say, okay, well, you will have the privilege of doing this. I don't think that black people gave white supremacists the privilege of doing anything. The white supremacists say, I'm seizing everything, including you. I'm taking charge of this entire planet, and all you dark people go with the entire planet, and I'm taking charge of every tree, every rock, every ocean, and all you dark-skinned people that are on this planet. And I am going to call it white supremacy and or racism, and it's going to be the form of government that's going to dominate the entire planet. Now, that wasn't a privilege that was granted to them. That was something they aggressively institutionalized themselves.
Yeah, they took it.
Yeah, they took it. They took it and they did it. And when they boast about it, they are telling the truth because that's actually what has happened. Now, it has been very embarrassing to the people of color on this planet. But see, I always tell people, never be embarrassed about the truth. Just find out whether or not it should be true. And if it shouldn't be true, then make what should be true, true.
And you find that out by asking questions.
Yes. Does this system of white supremacy exist? And if it does, then you ask the next logical question. Should it exist? Now, the answer to the first question, in my opinion, is yes. The answer to the second question is no, which means now we got to get rid of it and come up with a better system.
Absolutely. All righty. TalkTainMenTRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkTainMenTRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. We go, really, where you go. Radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. Don't go away. Coming up next, we're gonna have more of your phone calls and more of your questions. All that on the compensatory concept with Neely Fuller on TalkTainMenTRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
La Glory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue in Columbus, Ohio. They've got everything you need. The famous La Glory burger, chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, walleye, perch, and whiting, and fish dinners, all Southern style food.
Oh boy, what good eating!
La Glory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. Be sure to tell them that All in Our Family sent you, and you will receive an extra side dish with each meal. La Glory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. For carry-out, call 614-237-5844. Get the menu at LaGlory'sCafe.com. Open 7 days a week.
For the best eating in town.
We can give you a new heart.
We can help you walk again.
We can perform brain surgery.
We can treat a sore throat.
We can bring life into the world.
We can work so many miracles. But the one thing we cannot do is read your mind.
When you communicate with your doctor,
when you ask us more questions,
you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake.
Tens of thousands of lives are lost every year due to medical mistakes.
The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help.
Please, open up. Ask more questions.
What are the side effects?
When should I expect my test results?
Will this medication interact with my other prescriptions?
We can't answer if you don't ask.
Help reduce your risk.
Questions are the answer.
Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
Supporting minority education. I'm Sean Booker, damn it, from The Melting Pot. I'm here to tell you that as the mother of a high school senior, I know due to financial circumstances, many of America's deserving minority students do not have access to a college education. Since 1944, the United Negro College Fund has sought to provide one. Since 1972, the beginning of this campaign, UNCF has helped more than 300,000 talented students earn a college degree. I'm Sean Booker, damn it. Give a helping hand.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
Alrighty, welcome back to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and that's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and you can get in on the discussion by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will try to get to your messages. Both Neely Fuller and myself would like to take this opportunity to thank you for all of your calls last week, and even in the second hour on the 2-hour show, which is on podcast. We thank you very much for all your calls, your letters, everything that you do and did to make the show very prosperous. It was one of our best shows, as a matter of fact, and one of our higher rating shows. Thank you so much. We are discussing a quote that Mr. Fuller made back in 1971. And it simply says, if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. That's why, or one of the many reasons why you need to get his book. And yes, I am promoting this book, but you really do need to get it and then read it. The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism. And you can get the book online. I understand by what Mr. Fuller said earlier in the program that the book is temporarily, and the Word Guide are temporarily unavailable, I think, for 2 weeks. But you can get it by going to, when it is available again, producejustice.com. And he has it all set up for you to get through. It's smooth, it's fast, and you can track, when the book is going to come to you. It's all there. And this is the only one that I know that he certifies, this right here, producejustice.com. Now, there are others that are out there that are trying to do that and solicit donations and so forth. And Neely Fuller Jr. is, as he stated on the program last week and many other weeks before that, he's not a part of that. So producejustice.com is where you can go and get the book. Okay, before we go to the calls, Mr. Fuller, in some discussions that I had this week, one gentleman asked me, how did you come about to write that book? Your time in the service. What happened that you decided to put your thoughts into this marvelous book that I have a copy in my hand now, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. What caused you to write this book?
Stumbling and fumbling through everything that I encountered, because no one was telling me anything about that made sense about the world that I was dumped into. I was just put into the world, and I looked around, and everything was bewildering to me. And so, like any bewildered creature, any confused creature, that's what bewilder means, kind of wild, you might say, wilder. I'm looking around, and I couldn't make sense of anything. So, like most creatures that can't make sense of their environment, they have a tendency to run, which is why, the running Negro. I mean, recently that's been in the news. I mean, black person running, and you chase them when they run. I mean, if you're white, because that's a part of what you do. That's part of what you have been taught is your assignment in the system of white supremacy. Running black person, chase him. It's like you chase a fox or any, animal that looks like it's getting out of control. Chase it. Find out what it's doing, what it's up to. And if you can't catch it, kill it. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but in direct answer to the question, I was confused. That's why I use that word confusion a lot, because under the system of white supremacy, a person who has color in his or her skin is supposed to be what? Confused. Because when you confuse people, you can dominate them.
That's right.
That's the law of the universe.
That's right.
You can always dominate someone who's confused. 10 people in a room, the person who is least confused is the person who will be the smartest person and the dominant person in that room. That's anywhere, anytime.
Period.
Yes, that's a law of the universe. So, I was confused. And being confused, I was doing what a lot of confused creatures do. Try to run away from the confusion. Okay. So I was overseas in the 1950s in uniform, what they call the Air Force. I had been in the Army previous to that. Sometimes people have called in and said that I must not be telling the truth, because sometimes I sound like I was in the Army. Sometimes I sound like, from the things I say, I was in the Air Force. Now, which is it? Which one of those things lies am I telling? I say, well, I was in both of them, but at different times. All right? So I was in the Air Force at this time. Now, so I was really running away from confusion, running away from not knowing what to do, or not knowing my purpose. And when you're running away from something, you're also trying to run to something. So, logically speaking, if you're running away, there's an old saying, you don't run away from danger, you're also running to safety, okay? Or paradise, in the case for me. So, in a way of speaking, I was thinking the way that I was raised. I was raised up on a lot on fairy tales and movies. That's one of the first things that teachers teach you is a fairy tale. Cinderella, Goldilocks and the Slipper, the knight in shining armor, and if you're a male, you're supposed to be the knight. I mean, you come to the rescue of everybody else who's confused and whatnot. So I was raised up on stories like that. So I was also raised up on stories that say that somewhere there is Oz. Like looking at the movie, I was fascinated by that movie, The Wizard of Oz, when I first saw it.
Yes.
Right. Always leave from where you are, get away from that terrible place, and go somewhere where everything is like paradise, all right? And I read novels like Mutiny on the Bounty, and Fletcher Christian. What was he trying to do? He committed that mutiny on the ship called the Bounty so that he could get away to the islands. Go to the South Sea Islands, because the weather's always nice there. And all the fruit grows on the trees wild. You don't have to do a whole lot of work. You just lie around in a hammock all day. And just live the good life. That's why white people, even today, talk about, let's get away from it all. Go where? Go to the islands, okay? Where everything is just peaceful and calm and whatnot. And the oceans are blue, not polluted. At least, some of them are not now, so they say. Anyhow, I was in that frame of mind.
Yes, sir.
And I was in Japan. I ran across a black sergeant who said, Fuller, I've been watching you. And sergeants, if anybody knows anything about master sergeants from the old school, they can be pretty harsh.
Yes.
And but they can be pretty efficient and pretty direct, too, about some things, because they have learned certain things by trial and error, okay? Other people's trials and errors. A lot of people died to learn some things. So sometimes they don't tolerate nonsense, okay? So he said to me, Fuller, I've been watching you, and I figured you out real quick. You're one of these people running all over the world trying to find an ideal situation. He said, forget about it. He said, all these places you're thinking about going are not ideal. He said, if you want an ideal situation, you are going to have to produce it. Now, that hurt my feelings, because that's exactly what I was trying to do.
Yes,
you know how it is when somebody can see right through you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. But that was an embarrassing truth, but it was a wake-up call. And that's when I started writing the code book.
Okay.
Because he told me, if you want that kind of world that you're talking about, you can't find it anywhere, because it doesn't exist.
You have to produce it.
You're going to have to produce it.
Yes.
That's
sir.
when I started writing.
Okay. All righty. Well, there you have it, my friend. You heard it right here with Neely Fuller, how he started to write the book. Let's go to the phone lines, and what line are we, Galen? Line number 1. Okay. Caller number 1, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Wait a minute before you ask a question. This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766 or Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Okay, caller, what is your question?
Okay, is that me?
That's you.
Hey, thank you. Good morning. 2 points. For some reason, I am only getting part one of last week's podcast. The first hour I see is online, but the second hour I can't find it. And just wondering if that too will be posted soon.
Well, as far as I know, it's the part two will be the same title, only it will have part two on it. But I will speak with the production manager and see and make sure that it's on the air. What is your second question?
Okay, the second one is for Mr. Fuller. On the first hour of last week, Mr. Fuller, someone had asked about church, and Mr. Fuller stated that he would consider himself a church, and I was just wondering if he could elaborate on that point.
Okay, good question. Mr. Fuller?
Yeah, sometimes people ask me, and I'm going to be quite straightforward, do I go to church? And I have three codified response, a three-part response. I have part one. I have been to church. I stopped going to church. I never left the church. 1, 2, 3. I have been to church. I stopped going to church. I never left the church. Why? What do I mean by that? It means that the church, the way I was told, is a building, which later on I found out is really not.
That's correct. It's not.
All right. So then I said, okay, but I have been to many buildings called a church, many of them, on many occasions. So what do I mean by I stopped going? Well, I stopped going when I got there, whatever that's supposed to mean, in the way that people think of church, because most people still think of church as being a building.
Yes, they do.
Some bricks, with a roof on it, and, maybe some bells and chimes on the outside of it, and, and a sign out there saying church, okay? And then you go in and you see some benches, and then you see a podium that's called a pulpit, and you might see some musical instrument called a piano or an organ, and they say that's church, Church. But is that church? That could be just a building with a piano and some benches, just what you're looking at. They say, oh, no, well, that's part of it, but it's when the people get there. What people? Get there from where? Where were they before they got there? Was that church too? Say, well, no, it's church when they all come together. To get the message. Oh, okay. So now that gets to the second part. When I got to the church, I stopped going. Okay, if they call it a building, you stop going. You're not going to church when you're already in church. If you're going to say it's a building, I'll go with the building thing, because most people will say you're not in church until you're in church, and the church is a building. So why don't you come to church? I don't know where you are all out there in that world, but even though the church is in the world, but maybe the church isn't the world. There are some preachers who say, oh, no, a church is not part of the world. Oh, no, the church is something different. Oh, you don't want to be a part of the world. If you're a part of the world, you're not in church. So, but I've thought of that for every way that you can possibly think of. And I'm saying, well, if you leave the building, you don't stay in the building and raise your children and do all the cooking and do your sleeping and do everything in the building, even though there are some places in the world where I understand that happens among people who say that they are monks and they don't ever leave, okay? But most people leave church, which means once you left, if it's a building, you're no longer part of the church. Yet you say that you're a church member. How can you be a church member when you're not in church? You just left that building because you said that's the church. See the logic of it or the illogic of it? I don't know what's logical. That's the part that I'm making. But I'm still saying those three things. I stick with it. I have been to church. I stopped going to church when I got there. Because once I arrive, I'm not going there because I'm there. And then I say the third one, I never left. Now, what do I mean by that? I go by what every preacher I've ever talked to said you come to church for. You come to get a message. That message is just like going to the post office to pick up a message. And the message is that in a Christian church, you come for one message only. There's only one message. There's not a whole lot of messages. There's a lot of stories. Story of Ruth, story of Matthew, story of Solomon, the songs of Solomon, you know, the story of David and Bathsheba and whatnot. Lots of stories, but it's only one message. What is that message if you're supposed to be a Christian, according to every preacher that I've ever heard talk? Lots of preachers disagree on a lot of things, but every preacher I've ever talked to seems like they agree on one thing, that Jesus of Nazareth, a person named Jesus, died on the cross for my sins. And if I believe that, I will go to heaven. That's the message that I have always been taught over and over and over and over and over again in every church I've ever been in. And so, therefore, when I leave the church, the building called a church, I took that message with me. That's why I say I never left the church.
Right.
I took that message with me because they said that's the only message that you came there to get. All the rest of it is just stories, and some people call it entertainment. That's why a lot of black people say, I go to church and we really had a good time.
Yes.
So you're going to church for a good time, or you're going for the message? Well, the message and the church and the good time is all a part of the same thing. But the main thing is the message. I left there. I left with the message, so I never left the church. That's the equation.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your question. Thank you very much. To further elaborate on that, and this is Mr. Bobby, this is not Mr. Fuller, but if you start asking questions about what Mr. Fuller said, you will discover that God has a name, and you will discover that the person that is so-called Jesus has a name that is not Jesus. Now, I know that's very controversial, but God's name is Yahweh. Look it up. And the name for Jesus is Yahshua. And if you think that I'm just making it up or have a propaganda thing that going, against what we have already been taught, all you have to do is research the mistaken J. And I'm going to tell you right off, you will find out that the letter J did not exist until the year 1611. And if that is true, then there was no way that he could be called Jesus. But if you look it up for yourself and see if what I just said is not true or not, and we'll go on from there. Okay. Another person, Mr. Fuller, asked me about your opinion on the riots that happened in Baltimore, the looting and so forth, and all over. Why is that, or what did that happen? Why did that happen, and what did it produce?
The white supremacists produced it. Anytime there's some kind of conflict anywhere in the world or death that's caused by people, and some of the people involved are classified as non-white, the white supremacists are, according to the code of logic, are always to blame. That's automatic. Always. Why? Because they're in charge of all the non-white people. That's why. So just like on a ship, and you can say that the entire planet is a ship that has a captain, and the captain are all of those white people, not all the white people who are on the planet, but all the white people who believe in and who practice racism that we call white supremacy, are the captains. All of them are captains of the ship called the planet Earth when it comes to people who are classified as non-white. So anything that happens to the people who are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, yellow, that should not happen, any misfortune that they encounter, it's the fault of the captains. It's the fault of the white supremacists.
Okay.
Racist man and racist woman. That is code, and that is logic, and that is justice.
That is justice.
Anytime you say that, You're not saying something that shouldn't be said.
Okay.
Because that's the truth.
Question from the Gmail from Farad. He says, what does Mr. Fuller think about black people who are the enemies of justice, and should we forgive them?
Oh, black people haven't proven that we are for justice because justice doesn't exist.
Okay.
So there's nobody can take credit for being for justice. A black person say, I'm trying, but trying to be something, trying to be an airplane pilot doesn't make you a pilot. Trying to be a correct person doesn't make you a correct person. You just say, I'm trying. But we're not in a correct situation. So
Yes.
black people have this tendency, and, you know, we all have it, to, you ain't the one supposed to say quitting time, I'm the one supposed to say quitting time. In other words, every black person is looking for a reason to say that they are better than the other black person. And this is natural among slaves.
Okay.
We should know that about ourselves. I mean, we have to resist that tendency to look around and find another black person that you can blame for your condition.
Okay.
That is something that is absolutely incorrect, because the white supremacists are to blame for all of your problems, not some of them, because you're under their jurisdiction.
Okay.
You're not under the jurisdiction of another black person, ever.
All right. Mr. Clarence Johnson, it looks like we're running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to ask Mr. Fuller your question, so I will hold it until next week. But I do have time for one more caller. Go ahead, caller, on line number what? Line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question for Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.?
I have a two-part question, please. One is, I want to know how this quote-unquote white Jesus fits in with white supremacy and its operation in religion. One of the, how white supremacy operates in the area of religion. I want to know what role does white Jesus play with that. The second part is, I want to know if Mr. Fuller believes the message that he said he got from church.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Okay, in answer to the first question, anything that the white supremacists have anything to do with is going to serve white supremacy. So that's the only thing you have to look at. You look at any situation and ask yourself, are the white supremacists in any way involved in any of this whatever it is I'm looking at, in any area of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion,
yes,
sex, and war. Those are the 9 major areas of activity that the textbook that I have is segmented in. Now, religion is one of the major areas. So anything that has to do with religion and non-white people, the white supremacists are going to look at it and say, okay, what religion do black people claim that they are practicing and whatnot, or they want to practice or want to be involved in? Oh, well, you have people of color involved in all kinds of religions. Well, what the white supremacists will do is say, oh, if that's the case, then I got to tailor that religion so that everything comes to me.
That's right.
All of the power will come to me in whatever religion they're practicing. I wouldn't care if they call themselves Christians. I will interject myself into that, and take over that, and steer their minds so that everything that's associated with it will come to me.
That's what they've done.
Okay, now, and you say, oh, well, no, these people are Muslims. Say, well, I will engineer that.
Okay.
And it's, first of all, by causing a whole bunch of problems. All right?
Okay.
And get them confused and whatnot.
Okay.
So that they won't even know what they're doing if they're people of color.
All right.
Now, if there are people that don't have color in their skin, I'm not going to bother them.
Okay. We're going to have to leave it there. But, hey, caller, listen. Give your name to Galen so Mr. Fuller can answer the question next week. Just hang on and we'll do that, okay? Just hang and give it to Galen. Okay, you've been listening to The Compensatory Concept with Neely Fuller. Thank you for listening. Talk to him at radio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.